Welcome, my dear students of class 11 to this English class with me, your tutor Atinyo Tsikose. Today, our topic is reported speech. You would find it on page 17. And when we say reported speech, it means the same thing as direct and indirect speech. So we are going to talk about that now. And this is not, again, a new topic for you, but we are going to find out what do we mean when we say reported speech, or what does it mean when we write it differently in direct speech or indirect speech. So when we look at this topic, reported speech, when you are repeating somebody else's speech, so that's when you are reporting. So I want you to keep note of the word repeated. So when we are reporting, we are repeating somebody else's speech. So in this case here, we would have the indirect speech. And here you have direct speech. So that's what we have here. Now, in direct speech, I'm sure you have noticed certain usage of punctuation, such as single inverted comma, or sometimes we call it as speech marks, and in some case, double inverted comma. Now again, we are not going to go into detail with the use of punctuation, but maybe some of you are confused when to use single and double. So when we are using double, we are quoting. And even here, we are quoting. When we are using single inverted comma, we are quoting, no doubt, but within a quote. So that is the difference that we have here. So if you see that a speech is written within inverted commas, that means it is in the direct speech. Whereas when you find that the speech is being repeated with reporting speech, such as said, told, and asked. These are the most common reported speech that we use. And you may find that for those of you, those millennial students, you may also find that you use these a lot. Texted. So in your time now, I'm sure you may be using this a lot. So we can also say that these are the most common basic reported speech that we use. But besides this, we can also go for, supposing it is a question, he inquired. See, you can also put it in that way. So the word inquired also becomes a reported speech. You can also say he muttered, she whispered. All those things are in the reported speech. Now, when do we use it? Remember, we use it when we are repeating somebody else's speech, and also we usually use it when we are gossiping. And I hope you are not given much into those kind of things, but let me just give you an example here. Supposing your friend came over and say, you have no idea what he said to me. So see, he said to me. He said to me that he would call or she would call and so on. Or we can also say, she texted, she liked me. So you can also go with something like that. So we use it in order to repeat or report it back to a secondary person. So here you can say that here is the first primary speaker and the second is the secondary speaker. And when the secondary speaker is referring, or we can say reporting something else to a third person, that's when you use the reported speech. That is, use it in the indirect speech, we can also see. So that's what we have here. And another very important thing is that when we are using it in conversation, like I said, we can also use it in that way, but it is most to do with your writing. So when do you also use it or remember to use it? When you are answering your questions. Sometimes we get our tenses all wrong. That's because we fail to write it in the reported speech. For instance, take the example of, let's say, the poem is written in free verse. a free verse. So that's what you have here. So that is also, we can say that it is in the reported speech. Now, again, I hope you are able to follow the timeline that is on tenses, and we have past, present, and future. Again, when it comes to present tenses here, things which are habitual or things that remain as universal do not change in the reported speech. We would be talking about what kind of parts of speech changes in the indirect speech, but I want you to remember these exceptions, things which are universal, things which are repeated habitually, let's say, those things remain as it is. So supposing I've given the example, the poem is written in free verse, because that cannot be undone, that would remain as it is. So you need not worry about why is it not, when I'm writing my answer, why is it not in the past tense? My teacher said that it is supposed to be in the past tense. So this kind of confusion may arise, but remember, it is going to be a universal fact and things that would not change over time. So that's what we have here. And the second thing, things which are habitual or things which would not change according to tenses. Let's see. Now, what can that be? Supposing you said that I love my parents. In this case here, this person, let's say it is a he said, or he told me, you can also put it in that way, he said that he loves his parents. So that's what we have here. Now, we notice that this is not changing into any other tenses except that it is here. Since we have the third person singular, we have it in love. So this is not going to be changed into past tense or, for that matter, any other tense here. So this is going to be a notion or a concept that is not going to change in the past or in the present or in the future. So in such kind of cases, the tenses would not change. I hope you would keep this exception noted, because now the next thing that we need to discuss is conversion of direct speech into indirect speech, and it will become a little tricky if you are not clear with the exceptions. You may find that you are more confused than earlier. So that's what we have here. Now we would move on to how to convert it. Now let's take the same example. Let's say the first speaker, remember the primary speaker is here, and let's say the primary speaker said, I will text you. Maybe something that is likely going to happen in the future. And you are the secondary person here. This is the primary speaker, the secondary, and you are, let's say you are reporting this to a friend, So this is the third person here, the person who is receiving the message. So you would change this into the first thing that you have to change is let's say this person is called Lydia. So we know the gender. So the first conversion here is the pronoun conversion, that is she. Then we need the reported speech. So we can go for she said, or you can also say she promised, then she promised, then you have another additional conjunction here, a conjunction. You would be required to add that. She promised that then you may have noticed that this is in the future tense will. Now we are going to change this into the past. So, or we can also say that this is also a modal auxiliary verb. We will come to that again in a more detailed manner. Then she promised that she would call me. So that's what we have here. So we see that there are a lot of conversion that took place in this reported speech here. The first thing that we notice that has changed is that the pronoun has changed, and we have the reported speech here. Then we have the conjunction, and of course we are repeating this pronoun, And even this is changed into the past tense. The modal auxiliary, we can also put it in this way, or the verb, we can also say here. So your modal verbs, would change into, it will roll back to the next tense. I would also getting back to that. So would call me. In this case here, we are not changing it because it is something that is likely to happen in the future. So that is what we have here. And now, so we notice that these are some of the changes that took place when we are reporting a speech. But the meaning does not change. So that when do we use it? When we are repeating, remember, when we are repeating somebody else's exact words, let's put it in this way, into, without changing the meaning and repeating it to somebody else. So that's when we use the reported speech, and we also use it especially in writing and of course in reporting. So that's what we have here. So here, I'm sure you are clear with the pronoun, but I suppose you are a little confused with why we are using this would in the future tense. Now, this is also another exception that you need to remember. Why? Because under reported speech, you would find that under tenses, the tense changed, and under tenses, let's say here, this is present for now, and let's say in the middle we have past, and let's say here in the future. In this case here, what happened is that the present, simple present tense would change into simple past tense. So in other words, it will roll back to the next tense. So that's what we have here. So if it is under future tense, if it is simple future, again, this would be changed in the modal auxiliaries changes. So that's what we have here. The verb do not change. That's what I hope you would notice. So that's what we have here. And if it is in the past or simple past, it would change into the next tense, that is past perfect tense, and so on. So that's what we have here. If it is progressive and continuous, supposing it is a present continuous tense, I'm sure now you will be able to figure out that it would change into past continuous tense. So that's what we meant when we said the tenses would change, and that it will always, when you are reporting, it will always roll back to the next tense. If it is, remember, if it is in the present, it would change into past. If it is present perfect tense, it would change into past perfect tense, and so on. So what we notice is that the tenses would change, and we would also add additional reported speech. We would be required to use the conjunction that, and the pronoun changes, we understood that, then the verb such as or modal auxiliaries would change into past tense. So that's what we have here. Now, these are not the only things or the rules we have to the reported speech. In some case, you would be required to convert a question to the reported speech. Supposing somebody asked you a question, can you swim? So let's say she asked me, then you would be required to use for conversion of, hold on. She asked me whether I could swim. Or you can also say she inquired if I could swim. So that's what we have here. And you would notice that your question mark would not be required here. Because why? Because you already have the reported speech for questions, such as asked, or you can also say inquired, and so on. So that's what we have here for questions. Now, we would also discuss a few more confusing things about reported speech here. If you are clear with this, in fact, you would not get as confused as you would have been earlier. Now, the next thing that you need to remember here is that another changes that would take place is with time marks. So I'm sure, in fact, you must have discussed this in your lower classes. So time marks such as yesterday, such kind of things, or we can say, yes, in fact, yesterday would change into the day before, tomorrow, the next day. In order to save time, I would not be writing on the board as such here. So that's what we have here, the previous week and so on. Then again, we also have adverbial conversion as well. What do we mean when we say adverbial conversion? I'm sure you are familiar with adverb of time, adverb of place. So in such kind of cases, referring to places, such as here, would changed into there. In fact, here, even in time marks here, now would changed into then, and so on. And under this, another conversion that would take place is with words such as this would changed into that, and so on. These would changed into those. So that's what we have here under conversion here. Now, let's get to the confusing part, or let's get to one of the exceptional rules here. Supposing somebody said, let's just say for now that John said, I'd like some rice. How would you convert this into reported speech? Because here we have I'd like. So in such kind of cases, are we supposed to change it into I would like some rice? See, so now we are confused with whether to use would, because this is the conversion here. However, you can also say, so we have taken the case of John, so it would be he. So in this case here, he said that he would, in fact, he said that he wanted some rice. So that's what we would have here. Instead of changing it into would, you can also go for wanted. So you may be confused. Now you may be thinking that now this is not in the correct form or structure of a reported speech, but like I said, this is one of, again, another exception to the rule here. So that's what we have here under reported speech. Now very quickly, let me just give you a quick revision here. So when do we use reported speech? We use reported speech when we are reporting, or for that matter, repeating somebody else's speech to a third person. And if it makes it easier for you to understand, we use reported speech a lot in gossip and also when we are texting. So that's what we have here. And we also use it in our writing skills. In fact, the whole point of discussing this is for you to be able to use it to write your answers in the right reported speech. So now you know that when you are answering, what reported speech you are required to use. Now that does not mean that you have to convert everything into reported speech when you are writing your answer. But remember, if you want to quote certain lines or certain sentences, you can also go for the speech marks or the inverted commas. So that's how you can go about with it. What are the things that would change when you are converting a direct speech into an indirect speech? Remember, the tense would change, the pronoun would change. You would be required to add a few more reported speech. And of course, you would be also required to use conjunction and also preposition if you are going to say that he told me or she said to me. So in such kind of cases, if you need that, then you need the preposition to. So again, that's what we have here. So these are some of the conversion that you have. If you are changing it into a question into a sentence, you would be required, in fact, you need not use the question mark, remember that? So those are some of the rules to conversion of direct speech into indirect speech. And of course, you would notice that in this kind of reported speech, you would have to remove the speech marks and everything would be written in one tense rolled back, that is in the past tense. Your model for exception to the rules in the future tense, your model auxiliaries such as will or shall, for that matter, shall would change into should. and so on. May would change into might, and so on. So that's what we have here. Remember, even your time marks would also change, such as yesterday, the previous week, and so on. And places, adverbial places, adverb of time, in fact, would also change from there to here, or for that matter, here to there. That would be more precise. So that's what we have here under conversion of direct speech into indirect speech. I hope you would take some time to go through your text and work out your exercises. And I hope you find this useful and applicable when you are attempting your answers. Remember to use the reported speech. And on that note, we would be winding up today's class. Thank you all very much for joining me.